International, and we're very pleased to welcome everyone to all of the events going on, the wonderful competition downstairs, as well as all of our conference sessions up here. So I will now ask Joe Taylor to come right on up, and it's kind of great that there's a nice intimate session and you can ask lots of questions, and don't be shy to ask anything anything at all. Okay, thank you, welcome.
Thank you. Can you all see me? Because normally I have this problem. I know I have to wear really high heels, but you can see me, thankfully. Okay, so thank you very much, Michelle. As she said, I'm Joe Taylor. I'm Head of Learning and For Talent at Channel 4. So what the hell does that mean? It's a really nice title, but what do I actually do? So I look after the talent management strategy for Channel 4. So how we recruit, how we retain, how we develop not only the next generation of talent for Channel 4, but also the creative economy, and run a brand called For Talent, whose aim and purpose is simply to nurture and develop the next generation of creative talent for the independent production companies. For those of you that don't know anything about Channel 4, we started 27 or 28 years ago, 1982. And all of our programs and all of our content are made by over 300 independent production companies. So the head office that you see there is full of HR, marketing, press, sales, finance teams. So what our role, I think, is really important, and I think what we bring to the sort of work inspiration and, I suppose, inspiration campaign is the fact that our legacy not only filters into our organisation, but also filters out into the creative economy. And that's something that I think stands us not only in good stead amongst our competitors in our market, and let's face it, we're all commercial businesses, but is part of Channel 4's DNA and hopefully lasting legacy for UK PLC. So I do want this to be as interactive as possible. I'm going to try and take you through the mechanics of the programme. I've explained a little bit about For Talent, but kind of really wanted to give you an idea of why we do it, because it's not just about being worthy and not being part of our kind of constitution. I think it's really, really important, and I want to kind of explain to you why I think it's really important for us. Give you an overview of our Kickstart programme. So really, what do we do? How have we created this ladder of progression, and what have we done on the ground, but also online, and how we've merged the online and technology and social media aspects that young people are connecting with also on the ground paid opportunities. Some of the outcomes, some of the things that we're really proud of, and some of the quotes and stories, I'll rattle through them, but also really wanted to share with you lessons learnt. So we're really proud that we won the Work Inspiration Award. It was 4 years of really hard work to get us to that, and it has been a long journey, but a really inspiring and interesting journey. But there are 3 or 4 lessons that we've learnt that I think we want to pass on to you, that maybe when you're thinking about setting up programs, you can think about, and hopefully you won't make the mistakes that we made. Okay, so why do we do what we do? Well, I come from a very traditional background. I did 3 A-levels, I went and did a media degree, and if you look at the stats, there are millions and millions of people doing technology, social media, digital, TV and media courses. I think there's a stat that it's about 200,000 people alone are doing ICT courses. Lots and lots of people want to get into the media, and unfortunately it's become, as in many industries, a bit of who you know, not what you know. And I have a personal bugbear about this. It's something that kind of goes to the heart of me, that I think that it's our responsibility as Channel 4 to change that. I don't think we can ever change it 100%, but I think it's really important that we create opportunities for people as young as 11 to understand the skills, the experiences, and ultimate attitudes of working in a media organisation or the world of work, so that we start to break down those barriers. Like in any industry, the pathways need demystifying. When I started out, there were 2 routes into the media. You either did what I did and made programs, or you went and worked in business. Now you can get into the media in loads of different ways. people are creating content themselves. If you look on your iPhones and you look on Twitter and you look at the bedroom creatives or the digital natives, as they're called, they're creating content that some of my contemporaries made 10 or 15 years ago. The way that they can create and access content and have a play with it has opened up the opportunities for them. And I think it's actually become more difficult to know, because you can't just go down two pathways. It's harder to get in. And as businesses start to think about those routes, but also we're in a really difficult economic climate, some of those routes close. So it's important for Channel 4 to say the world of the media doesn't just mean being a Big Brother contestant or being Davina McCall. It actually means all of the backroom opportunities, whether that's in HR, in finance, in marketing, in press. And the amount of young people that come through our doors, first of all, asking where the Big Brother house is, and then asking where Jon Snow is. They're really quite disappointed when they come in our building, because they realise that it's full of business people. And they don't realise that the fact that they might want to be an accountant or they might want to be a journalist, they can have a career within Channel 4 rather than going and working for a paper. So it's our responsibility to not just talk about the sexy side of the industry, but also to show them the routes that are available to them and give them those opportunities. These three pillars, diversity, talent, and innovation, I think is what we've built our ultimate Kickstart program on. So I believe passionately that it's really important to connect with the broadest diversity of talent and be really clear what you mean by talent, that it's not just about the qualifications that someone has, it's about the attitudes and the experiences and the difference that they can bring to an organisation. If we all create a monoculture within our organisations, then where's the innovation? Where's the difference? How can we connect with our audience if all of the people in our building are white Guardian readers? That's not what we should be doing, and that's really important and a really big pillar of the work that we do. So talent, we need to be opening up the opportunities, as I've talked about, demystifying the roots and being very clear what we mean by talent, but also saying the competencies and skills that people need to have, but also creating a level playing field for people to apply. So we do open days and we do assessment centres where we're not just looking at someone's ability to interview really well, we're looking at their creativity, we're looking at their communication, we're looking at their teamwork, some of their leadership potential. So unlocking that talent and using lots of different devices has been a big building block of why I think our programme has been successful. And I think, for me, having worked in the media for the last 16 years, the growth of technology has driven the need to be innovative and to use innovative solutions to connect with that Generation C or Generation X. And I think that's really critical. You can see our work all the time, whether you go on our websites or you can see them on any of our channels. But the need for innovation in technology, in the presenters, in the ideas that we ultimately end up making is really critical. And that's where that connection with that young audience, when our main demographic of audience is 16 to 35, is so business critical for us. If we do not connect with that audience, then how on earth can we start to come up with the in-betweeners? Because the average age of people working in Channel 4 is 37. So we're already older than the demographic that we're trying to connect with. And our commissioning team tend to be between 35 and 45. So that's, for us, it's really important to have a cohort of engaged, dynamic young people that we can call upon, whether that's through events or whether that's through work experience. So that's why we do it. And that gives you a bit of a flavour. So this is the programme, in essence. As I said, it's evolved over the last 4 years. It was kind of, I was brought into Channel 4 to create the brand that is now 4 Talent. And I suppose this has been my baby for the last 4 years, along with lots of other things. But something that takes up a huge amount of our time and resource but has been incredibly worthwhile in terms of staff engagement. I heard that in the Capgemini talk that I was just in. You know, the way that you engage with managers and get them to interview, to mentor, has huge ripple effects across your employee engagement index and why people want to work at Channel 4. So I've split Kickstart into two areas. So on the ground and then online, because I think that they're both really important. And for me, it's about building a ladder of progression. All of these are intrinsically linked. You can come in at any level, and engage at any level, but there are clear pathways for people to access through our website, and we make it very clear that once you're in the family with Channel 4 that you can access any of these opportunities. So the first is work experience. It's 1 to 2 weeks unpaid work experience in any of our departments. People apply online through an open day. They come to an open day. We do between 2 and 3 a year, in London and also across the UK, where we tend to have between 300 and 350 young people come through a careers event where they get to meet different business leaders within our organisation, but also experience masterclasses, some sort of CV workshops, but get a real flavour of our culture, but also some of the skills that they'll need. And we offer up to 100 placements a year. To give you an idea of our business, we have a staff base of 750. So we're offering a huge amount of placements a year and a huge amount of commitment. And we work with a range of schools, colleges and community groups. Next year, we are going to ring fence up to 25 placements specifically for charities and community groups to try and engage on the social mobility class agenda. We feel that not only the coalition but also Labour there is a disenchanted community. And it's our responsibility to not only engage with education, it's important to engage with charities and community groups. So that's work experience. Inspiration on the road is what it says on the tin, really. They are inspirational one-day events around the country. So we commit to do 12 cities in 12 months. So we have been to Leeds, Birmingham, Cardiff, we're going to Glasgow, we're going to Belfast by the end of the year. And they tend to be days where a cohort of anything from 15 to 100 young people will come and they will get to meet, they'll have a keynote by an industry leader of that region or area, and then they'll have a chance to go to 2 or 3 masterclasses. So we were in Bristol, and we did a whole day around circus skills, stand-up comedy and puppetry. And we had 60 young people making puppets and putting on a show, and we invited the community group that we were working with, some of their parents, to come and see that. So they have a deadline during the day to work to, which I think is really important, but they get a chance to have a play. And we tend to do them at weekends rather than in the week, because we have found, like a lot of people that have been talking today, that sometimes engaging with schools has kind of put a bit of a barrier up. Not that I would say not working with schools, I wouldn't say you shouldn't work with schools, but I think it's tricky. Sometimes because of the fact you have to go through lots and lots of hoops. I'm sure some of you would know that. But also I think it's important to engage with the individual rather than engage with a teacher or a careers advisor who's just putting somebody on it because they just want to put bums on seats. I want people that come that really want to attend the day. I think we owe that to the providers who give up their time for nothing. So I think that programme has given us huge amounts of partnerships, and we have leveraged nearly £150,000 of in-kind support from businesses around the country to help us in providing those opportunities for young people. All of this is paid for by us. We don't have any government funding, we don't have any grants. We take this cost onto ourselves. I'm very happy to, if you want to know what that is, I can share that with you. The next ladder is apprentices, and this is our newest programme. We launched 2010 to 2011 linked to the Paralympics. and we have two doing a creative and digital media, and we have two doing business administration. We aim to double that 2011, 2012 to 8, and we're going to try and have 6 within our business and 2 in partnership, because we want to start using our model of best practice around recruitment and networks with our partners. So we're really open to partnership, not only within our own sector, but also cross-sector as well, because I think it helps if an employer has already done it to unlock those doors, rather than if you start something completely from scratch. So we're completely open to that. They're paid a salary of 15,500 a year, and all of their training. So they do 4 days a week in our business and a day out of our business. So we do pay quite significantly for them, but we think that gives us a higher level of candidate. So that's our apprenticeship scheme. The next layer up is interns, and we've taken for the last 2 years up to 12, and they are a year, and they're paid £20,000 a year, and they're in different areas of our business. So we've had 2 in sales, 2 in marketing, in our audience and technology. So they get a flavour. They do a placement in their chosen area. They apply for that, and we recruit through assessment days. So they come in and they have a teamwork exercise. They have to do a written exercise, and then a one-to-one interview. I'll tell you on the next slide some of the numbers that we get, and they're pretty horrendous in terms of shortlisting for us. But they don't have specific training or a qualification to work for, but we have a real endemic learning and development portfolio of opportunity for them, whether that is coming to evening discussions, webinars, books, courses. So they get access to all of that, the same as a normal employee would do. And each of the apprentices and the interns have a mentor, both an internal mentor and an external mentor, so that they can, who are probably 2 or 3 rungs up their ladder, so that they can actually have something to aspire to and ask those questions, as well as go through the same performance management cycle that everybody else does. The final part, I suppose, is our youth advisory panel. And it was something that, when we evaluated our programme 2 years ago, came out as really strong, that, why are the adults ruling the school, in effect? How can we come up, as I'm a 38-year-old woman, how can I come up with these programmes if I don't understand? And I do lots of talks at schools, but I wanted to have that voice within my own department. So we created a youth advisory panel of 5 young people from across the country who not only help us evaluate our programme, but also come in and work with other areas of the business. So we're starting to introduce them to our marketing team when they're putting campaigns together for E4, for example. We're talking to our commissioning team about linking them into our sort of entertainment and drama departments to try and get some of that youth voice into our areas. So they're coming to the end of their year with us. We don't pay them when they're on, but we pay all their expenses, and they come down to Channel 4 during that year 4 times, so once a quarter. And we put a training plan together for them. They all have mentors within the business. So online, and this is an area that I would say has really grown. We've got over 25,000 people following us on those range of social networking tools, and I think it's been one of the things that I've really learned over the last 24 months, that you need to use social networking tools to not only engage with young people, but keep that conversation going. So what they really like about our offering is that all of my team are on Twitter, so we're replying to them instantaneously. They can also email us. We've got a traditional email account, and they can write to us if they want to, but we are all practicing what we preach, and we're all on Twitter, and we're constantly tweeting about opportunities at Channel 4, but also across the industry, so they get a real flavour of the offering that's available. We have alumni groups on Facebook where they get invited to screenings and talks and opportunities, and get probably some exclusives. for being on the alumni group. We also have a website which we're just about to change, but is basically it's where you can find all the information about not only Kickstart but all of the other things that we do at For Talent. And we work with Horse's Mouth mentoring to offer 50 people within our business the opportunity to mentor online, completely anonymously, a whole range of people, from young people to parents to grandparents, and offer advice about careers and opportunities in the media. So we offer that as a development opportunity for our staff, and we try and make sure that our alumni feed into that. So we try to build a very online element to our program, which I think sets us apart from other programs and enables us to do it because of our brand, but it's what you consistently do with it. So here are some of the outcomes. I'm not going to read them to you, but because we'd be here all day. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a flavour of some of the things that we found out through our evaluation. We're incredibly proud that 98% of people felt that we're accessible to a diverse range of people, and that when they come into Channel 4, they can see that diversity at work. And that 96% felt that they kind of an increased understanding of the roles in the media, which when you're starting from a period where the media can feel as if it's, as I talked to at the beginning, who you know, not what you know, is a really fantastic stat for us to feel that we're actually making a difference in that. But the thing that really stands out for me is that of all those programs, when you're talking, our CEO was here today, David, and the one thing that stands out for me in selling him this program and saying consistently we need to keep our funding, we need to increase it, and putting that sort of ROI argument, is that 30% of those interns and those apprentices have remained in Channel 4. And that has had a profound effect on the feel and the look of Channel 4, but also in terms of the cost to hire and some of the ideas and some of the creativity. So for a small organisation, when I've been listening to a lot of global organisations today, for us, not offering the hundreds or the thousands of placements, 30%, and that keeps rising every year, is we're really proud of, and we aim to increase that over time. So I talked about how many applicants we get. Well, one scheme is the production trainee scheme, and I'm very happy to talk about that, but I won't talk about it now. But for 10 placements, we had 7,000 applicants. We had to read every single application. It took me a long time. Yeah, it took us, there was a team of 4 of us, and it took us 3 weeks to read all of them, but we did read everyone, and we offer feedback even at that first stage, so we're happy to be challenged in that way. But it's incredibly difficult, and I think we've got to get better at being very clear about the competencies that we're looking for, but also taking the time to read those 7,000. I'm sure we miss some real gems and we miss some real talent through them. So how do you juggle a brand that is hugely youth-orientated with the need to get the best? And what does the best look like? It's not just about skills, it's about attitude. And how do you get that from a traditional application process? So we're looking at ways, and be really interested if anyone's got any advice about how we go about that. And that stat's actually wrong. We've now got over 20,000 people following us online, and that's in the space of 2 years. So it builds every day, yeah, keeping that going is a challenge, but fun, and I think you've got to enjoy. That's what really struck me about the last presentation I was in, that the passion and enthusiasm to do it is not just part of the day job. I don't go to work because I want to feel worthy. I want to make a difference in everything that I do, but I also want to have a congruent story that feels authentic to the brand that I work for. And if that's not authentic, then a young person can smell it, and a business leader can smell it, and I think that's incredibly important. So here are a couple of quotes, basically from some of our alumni, that give you an idea about some of the experiences. We've had people on our production trainee scheme, for example, that were second careerers. So doctors and lawyers that have changed. We've got a fantastic apprentice, Jamie, at the moment, who worked in a pound shop before he got the opportunity to be an apprentice, and he is just flying. If we can't keep Jamie, I'll be so gutted because, you know, out of all of the apprentices, he's absolutely fabulous. But he would never have got an opportunity to do an internship with us because he would have been competing with graduates. And while his attitude came across from day one, you could spot him in the room, you knew that he was going to get the job. You went through the process and it was everything. But it's how do we keep hold of those people and how do we get them to commit to an organisation like Channel 4 when the opportunities now are so broad, and that a young person, Generation Z or Generation C, want completely different things from an organisation than me. So I want to know that I've got stability, that I've got a staff job that's stable, that I've got a pension and healthcare. A young person doesn't want to know that. They just want to know how fast they can move up, what are the opportunities to develop, and that's going to be a huge challenge in that talent journey, and how when you're building programs like this, you're building it across your organisation so that you're actually making it a congruent story, so that you don't just take this in isolation. It becomes part of your bigger talent, reward, succession strategy, because it's all going to, you know, we're all businesses, it's all going to hit us in different ways. So that leads me nicely onto kind of lessons learned and what I kind of want to leave you with. For me, the things that have been really successful about our programme is the simplicity of the message. It's ultimately inspiring and giving aspiration for young people. It's very simple. You can sum it up in a sentence, and people know what it says on the tin. You know, whenever people come to our site, it's there. Whenever we go to schools, in all of our literature, in everything, there's a simplicity of message. We're not trying to be nuclear physicists. We want to make a difference, but we want to do it by breaking those barriers down, but in a simple, easily accessible way, whether you're dealing with a head teacher or you're dealing with an 11-year-old. They want to know what you stand for. So the simplicity is critical. Regular communication is the second point. So whether that is keeping up your Twitter feed, whether that's your Facebook group, whether that's regular communication with your schools, the community groups, the charities that you work with, making them aware about all the different things that you do, is critical in my eyes and is what has made us really successful. If we hadn't regularly communicated, then I don't believe we'd have reached the numbers or have reached any of those results that I talked about. And you know, I'm not going to lie to you, it's a full-time job on top of the day job. But actually, the rewards are massive. Having an online presence, I don't think you can work in this space without having a really good website or a way that people can get hold of you on email or Twitter or any of those social networks. Being online and making sure that your online presence is as broad as it is long, I think is critical. And we're able to do that because we have a broadcast. We have a broadcast outlet. It's very easy for me after a programme to publicise some of the work that we do. It's very easy for me to work with media partners or technology partners to create that online presence because we have a sexy brand. Because what you see, you can see it every day and people can access it. For other businesses, it's not so easy. But if you start small and that simplicity of message, it grows really, really quickly. I think adopting a variety of approaches has made our programme unique in the space and compared to, say, the BBC's or Sky's. We've adopted that ladder of progression. It was really, for me, it was really important when I had this idea in, one night at home to build this programme, was that I wanted people to be able to access us in different ways. So I didn't want a one-size-fits-all agenda to talent. And I've taken that philosophy in-house as I have for talent, so that actually you can adapt it and not be afraid to pilot things. There's been things along the 4 years that we've piloted that haven't worked. We've had to cancel inspiration days. We wanted to run an inspiration day in Somerset, and we worked with the university, and they promised us that they would get us the 50, 60 placements. We went online. No, it was like tumbleweed. We couldn't, and we've evaluated it and we realised that we attacked it in the wrong way. They were the wrong partner. It was the wrong area. The transport links weren't really good. So we put our hands up and we move on. And I think there's sometimes it's quite low cost to try some of these things. You don't have to we've dipped our toe in the apprenticeship model, 4 in the first year, but now we're doubling it. So you prove that it works, and you prove that it works with the managers, and then they start asking you for more, and I'm sure some of you have had that. And the final thing is, don't be afraid to evaluate, and keep evaluating the successes. Keep getting the feedback from your staff, from your stakeholders, and from your alumni. And we've just commissioned, and it will come back in the next 2-3 weeks, an evaluation of the whole of our 4Talent programme for the last 4 years, because we want to see how important it is to Channel 4, how it's important to the economy, how important it is to individuals and ultimately the community, so that we can understand both the economic and the cultural impacts that programmes like this made, so that we can learn from our mistakes, but we can also build it bigger and better for the future. So I would never try and put you off doing a programme like this. I think it's been one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done in my career. From being a programme maker to a head of department in the BBC, I absolutely get out of bed every day and feel inspired by this work and the young people that we connect with. And I really hope that you've learned a little bit about us, and that inspires you to think about how you can take that back into your business. Thank you very much. So, any questions? Hey. Yeah.
One day events, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they turned up. Yeah, they enjoyed it.
Well, we do arrange. So basically, it's been a bit of a learning journey for us, because I think that's probably a weakness of mine, if I'm honest. That we've always gone, oh yeah, it's been really successful. We got X amount through the door. So we do the happy sheets after the day, and we do it online. So we tried to do it in paper form, and then we found that it took someone an eternity to type them up. So we do it we use SurveyMonkey, and we email them, and we then track how many people go on to apply for other things. So we start to track who came in on an open day, then who applied for an inspiration day, who then applied for an internship or an apprenticeship. And so we try and track that. We also do this massive piece of evaluation once a year, where we email all of the people that have been through our programs, and we ask them to do an online survey. We then interview a selection of them. We also interview a range of managers internally, as well as stakeholders, to ask them critical questions about what was it like to have an apprentice, what did you learn about it, and start to get some of that then feeds into our learning and development or leadership and management strategy. But I think we're quite lucky, if I'm honest. I think we're quite unique in that way, that a lot, when we did this big piece of evaluation, we emailed 2,500 people who'd been through open days and things like that, and 20% of people came back, which for an online survey is huge when you think about normally 5%. So we have quite an engaged audience, so I think we're luckier. But I think the sooner you do it, if you say a day, we're going to email you, then they tend to come back quite quickly. But I think we look at different factors and we try and feed it into that bigger piece. But I'm happy to share anything that we've got with you online if that would be useful.
I think we also struggle with the schools.
Yes.
And the schools want to own the relationship.
Yes.
Understandably,
Yeah.
as a parent, I get it.
Yeah.
But in a business, it's quite frustrating because I want to.
Well, schools, we've done a day at a new media and technology school in Newcastle, and getting the lists of the young people from the schools, we still haven't got it, and it was 2 months ago. So we can't communicate with those young people. But on the day, we were there, and we said, these are the ways that you can connect with us, and we felt that that was the best way. We sent the forms to the teachers. Sometimes I kind of think that's why we've stopped doing so much in education. And I feel sorry about that. I kind of feel like I'm apologising for it in one way, but also I think that the way society at the moment is making young people decide very, very early whether they want to continue down that education route or go an apprentice route. And I think what we've got to do is we've got to work with both cohorts. And if that means that we stop have so many relationships with schools and we have more with community and charity groups, then so much the better. And I've talked at school conferences and told careers and head teachers, and I'm not afraid to say that. I think it's really important. You're very, very welcome. There's a mic. Sorry, I'm going to get told if I don't use the mic.
Thank you, I think. You talked a little bit about defining talent. So do you have a definition for you in Channel 4 about what you define talent as? And would people recognise that in your company? And also, where you've got people going through the programmes, kind of what happens to them post-programme? Because some of the programmes I've worked on in the past, people love going on them, they get a lot from it. They come off them and it all goes a bit wrong because they're not the special people anymore. They've got to compete the same as everyone else in the organisation, and how you can engage and motivate them post the programmes.
I think that I define talent at Channel 4 as anybody. So whether you work on reception or you're a cleaner at Channel 4 or you're David, our CEO, you are talent to Channel 4. So we treat you fairly, consistently, inspire you, nurture you in the same way, whoever you are. We don't have high potential programs. We don't give people, we're very flat structured organisation. So we're able to be much more egalitarian about it. And for me, that kind of goes back to kind of my values. The values of Channel 4 are nurture, inspire, challenge and champion. And it feeds from when you recruit to this sort of onboarding process. So you know very clearly that if you get into Channel 4, you're part of that bigger kind of DNA puzzle. I think in terms of the things that have come out in the evaluation that we've just done, you made a really, really good point about what happens after the programmes, and I think that that's something that we need to work on. So when I stand up at events and say to people, you're part of the 4Talent family, absolutely mean that. They can email, we come back to them in 48 hours and do all that. But I think there's more that we could do. So we're looking at the aftercare, especially around the inspiration on the road, because I feel like we kind of sort of bob into Bristol, for example, and then we kind of bob out again and we might not come back for another year. So I think what we've got to do is we've got to create partnerships in those nations and regions where some of that work is being done for us outside of that, and that we better communicate the opportunities and maybe increase our mentoring, maybe change our website a little bit more around that sort of career navigation. So I think we're looking at that all the time. But I think I'm going to try a few things, if I'm honest, and see what works and get regular feedback about it. But it is, when you've got over 20,000 people regularly, in some way communicating with us, not every day, but, very, very active, wanting information. I kind of want to slightly flip the table a little bit and try and start communicating that it's your responsibility. So we'll come in and we will inspire you and give you aspiration and connect you with people that you will never have met if you didn't come to one of our events. But what are you going to do with it afterwards? So I think we've got to be a little bit clearer about that and say we take our responsibility really importantly. But, for me, the biggest lesson I've learned in my career is that no one's going to just offer me a job. I have to go and find it myself. And I think we've probably pussyfooted around that a little bit, and I think we need to be a little bit tougher. And I think if more businesses are saying that, it makes it easier for us. So, I think it's definitely a work in progress, but definitely something that we know we've got to pick up on.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I apologise for any career advisors in the room, and I'm only speaking from Australia's point of view.
Sure.
I work with an institute in Melbourne that has 50,000 plus students, and we have career days for career advisors to come and attend
Yeah.
and go a full tour of the facilities that are available and to see
Yeah.
our services offered. Those career advisors then go away, and all the information that you give them, and which includes, we have a multimedia department where we produce DVDs and everything to give to them to play to the schools. The majority of those advisors actually put them in the drawers.
Yeah.
And then they don't pull them out until an actual student comes in and says, I'm thinking of doing hairdressing. Oh, and then they'll go and get something and hand it. They don't actually put it out on boards or make it available, and it's very frustrating for us because we put so much time and effort into it.
Yes. We did, we used to do Pacific Days for teachers and careers advisors, and we found that you'd struggle to get people to come, which you think, my God, coming to Channel 4, you know, you'd think we'd be inundated. You then get the cohort of people turning up totally disengaged because they've been told by their head teacher or local authority to come, and just basically sitting there and complaining most of the time during the day that we weren't giving them all the information. And I turned around and said, it isn't about giving you information, because all the information that you need in terms of careers is online. I don't, you know, Google has kind of opened the world, wherever you are globally, to the opportunities. And, you know, whether you work in, you know, if you're from Australia or I'm in the UK, you can still access all of the materials. And I think there's become a little bit of a reticence that teachers and careers advisors, in a way, have got so much on their plate with kind of the curriculum that actually they don't have the time to engage. I don't think it's a laziness. I think they absolutely want to, but I think they can't possibly know all of the different careers and opportunities. So I think it's up to, there's got to be a partnership, and I think at the moment it feels, from an industry perspective, that it's all about industry. So it's all about, and you hear the government talking, they say, well, what is industry doing? How many apprenticeships are you taking on? What are you doing around work inspiration? What are you doing about... Well, okay, but what are you doing to change the aptitude of teachers and careers advisors and online portals? So I think for me, it goes back to that whole word I talked about at the beginning. It's a partnership. It's no one's responsibility to change the careers service apart from all of us. And if we don't make waves and we don't keep talking about it, then I don't believe anything will change, and I'll be back here in 5-10 years' time talking about the same thing. So I totally get it. I think it's just the same in the UK. And I think it's ultimately, it's just really sad, because I don't think it's the careers advisors' fault, but I think it's the young people that suffer. And that's what makes me sad, because it isn't, I don't suffer. It's that young person who wants to be a makeup artist and goes away from school and is told to be an accountant. I just think it's a travesty. But that's me on my, you know, hobby horse. But I totally agree with you. Final question, or we finished? Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. I hope you had a great day. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I'm going to be hanging around for about 5-10 minutes. I'm really happy to answer anything offline. But have a great afternoon. Thank you very much.
Hold on, and I would just like to say on behalf of WorldSkills International, WorldSkills London, thank you so much for coming. And we have
thank
just
you
a
very
little gift
much.
for you.
Oh,